An Average American Guy. Chapter 6. Cary Lee was angry at the situation concerning TWA 1011, but she was overjoyed that she had her husband at home and alive. She expressed these feelings to John. She cried tears of anger and tears of joy. Now I know how a policeman's wife feels every day her husband goes to work, or a fireman, or construction worker. I wish the Lord would guarantee you would come home in one piece every night. John just held her close. The day you don't get angry with me in situations like this, I will know you no longer love me. She balled up her fist and hit his chest. John Thomas Tolliver, that's never, ever going to happen. I love you, you big dope. John smiled. Let's heat up some chili, eat, then go to the bedroom. She smiled through her tears. Okay, now you're talking. After talking about staying in the army, the benefits, the drawbacks, the dangers, and the good things, Cary Lee and John thought that he should stay in. He would retire after 20 years with a pension and health, exchange, and commissary benefits. It would be a good life. John talked to the re-enlistment officer and did re-enlist. Because he was paid more to be an EOD specialist, he decided to remain in that MOS, military occupational specialty. The biggest drawback was that he was the most experienced expert in the entire El Paso, Fort Bliss area and would be called upon when the threat was extreme. John and Cary Lee were happy. She loved her job at the florist shop and all the activities available on post. John trained on all the new aspects of his duties and was an instructor for the battalion. Further, John was highly respected in the civilian and military communities. One morning, John was called by the captain, Sergeant Tolliver. The El Paso police called. They have a bomb threat at a Chase Bank. According to the chief of police, the warning is the same as TWA's when 1011 landed here at Biggs Field. There's a jeep outside waiting. John stepped over to a phone and called the flower shop, and told Cary Lee what was going down. She said, I'll be there in about half an hour. John did not argue. He just said, okay. I love you. And hung up, got his tools, and drove to the bank. Arriving, John was met by the chief of police and briefed. The bank was cleared of all those who were not sitting. Everyone else was stuck to their seats. As John started into the bank, he heard Cary Lee, wait for me. He turned to see her running toward him, but a policeman stopped her. John said to the chief of police, please, chief, let her come with me. A hand signal, and the officer let Cary Lee go. John said, I love you. But you must do as I say. She nodded. They walked into the bank, and John spoke, please remain calm. First, I will inspect your chair, then, you must leave the building when I say so. Then there was a voice from the general manager's office, come here first. John walked to the office, looked in, and said, if you want to live, you'll sit there quietly and wait. Ladies first. John walked back to the first clerk and began to inspect her chair, desk, floor, and anything else in the vicinity. The inspection took 20 minutes. John figured that each inspection would take 20 minutes. 9 ladies were sitting at desks, 3 gentlemen and another 3 loan officers in separate offices. It would take 5 hours to clear the bank unless he found the bomb before then. He cleared 1 lady, then another, and another, until all 9 were out of the bank. Then he began to inspect the men's chairs, desks, and other things. All the while, the manager was screaming that his office should be cleared first. Finally, John cleared the 3 gentlemen, and they left the bank. Cary Lee was near John at every turn but was not in the way. John walked to the manager's office. Look, you damn coward, shut the hell up. You'll sit there until I am damn good and ready to clear your office. Cary Lee hit John's shoulder. John, your language. John smiled at her. This guy needs to be fired. I'm going to do what I can to see that he is canned. John cleared the loan officer's offices and turned to the manager's office. The manager had a chair much like an overstuffed recliner, so John first checked the desk, the bookcases, and the trash can, and then he got down on the floor and found just what he expected. The bomb was secured to the bottom of the chair. John took every step he had taken on the TWA aircraft. Finally, John told Cary Lee to go outside. This was the critical moment. She refused. "John Thomas Tolliver, I'm staying right here." John looked at her with tears in his eyes. "Sweetheart, I'm afraid for you." She replied, "Do your job. If it is that we go together." John removed the fabric holding the bomb, traced the circuit, took his wire cutters, and said, "Cover your ears. It's going to be very loud if I cut the wrong wire." And he cut the wire. John told the manager to stand. There was a click and nothing. The manager began to rage at John, but John just picked up his tools, put his arm around Cary Lee, and walked out. He told the chief of police that everyone was out of the building, and the chair in the manager's office had the bomb. "By the looks of it, it is identical to the bomb I found on TWA 1011. Your bomb squad should bring it out and destroy it." All the while, the manager continued to scream at John, then at the chief of police, then to anyone who just might be standing nearby. Finally, the chief of police thanked John and shook his hand. Exhausted, John asked if they could drive his Jeep back to the post. The chief detailed 2 officers to take John's Jeep back to his company, and John rode back with Cary Lee. Arriving at his company, John asked for the next day off, and his commander said, "Take the rest of the week off, John. Good work. Tell me about the manager." Cary Lee said, "That jerk kept screaming at John to clear his office first. He never did shut up, even when John told him he would clear the office when he was good and ready to. Then, after John cleared his office, he kept screaming at John, the police chief, and everyone else. Finally, the commander asked, 'How is it that your wife is so knowledgeable about what happened in the bank?' She replied, 'I was there. I will be with my husband when these things happen. I told him, if it is that we go together. That is my prerogative. He belongs to me, I only lend him to you.' The captain remarked, 'That's quite a gal you've got there, Sergeant.' John yawned and said, 'Don't I know it? May we go, sir?' The captain replied, 'Of course, see you Monday.' Cary Lee prepared the meal at home, and they sat to eat. While at dinner, Cary Lee said, 'John, that was exciting. To be with you and watch you work around those people who were so appreciative of you and what you were doing, except the manager, he was a jerk. I hope he gets fired.' John looked at her, 'Are you serious? Exciting?' She replied, 'Yes. Exciting.' He responded, 'You know what's exciting for me? Being in bed with you.' She responded, 'Well then, let's put a little excitement into our lives.' Then, giggling, she stood and ran to the bedroom. Laughing, he was right behind her. On Monday morning, John was called into the captain's office. 'Sergeant Tolliver, have you ever considered becoming an officer?' John nodded, 'Yes, sir, I have.' The captain asked, 'And what are your thoughts about that?' John replied, 'Sir, I dined with General Johnson, the post CG, and the battalion commander. I've watched you and the other officers around here, and I just don't want to be part of that kind of BS. I'm a doer. Defusing bombs, that's me, not sending someone else to do it, maybe to die.' The captain responded, 'There is a need for officers of your caliber.' John replied, 'The Army needs good NCOs too.' His captain said, 'You're right. The battalion commander may want to talk to you about this. He is the one that wanted me to talk to you. But for now, dismissed.' John was called into the battalion commander's office. 'Sergeant Tolliver, I know that your captain has already talked to you about becoming an officer, and I do understand your position. But I want you to consider a few things. 1. More money. 2. More at retirement. 3. A greater capacity to make a difference. 4. Your family. You would qualify for an appointment to one of the military academies, West Point, Annapolis, or the Air Force Academy.' John asked, 'Why am I qualified?' The colonel replied, "Your Medal of Honor, Sergeant." John responded, "I'm sorry, sir. I just can't." The colonel asked, "Is it because of your feeling your poor white trash?" John replied, "Something like that, sir. Please, sir, I need to get back to work." The battalion commander asked the captain to come and discuss Sergeant Tolliver. "Colonel, Ted, Sergeant Tolliver is an outstanding soldier, loyal, courageous, pleasant, strong, an outstanding man of any rank. However, he admitted that his feeling of being poor white trash is one reason he can't see himself as an officer. You're his commanding officer. I recommend he see a psychologist or a qualified counselor to help him with this problem. Captain, I'll refer him to mental health. I'll let them know about the poor white trash problem." "Colonel, thank you, Ted." The next thing John knew, he was sitting in a counselor's office being asked about his hang-up being poor white trash. The counselor seemed to John much like Dr. Peterson from his high school days. After the first session, John went to the captain. "Captain, I can't work with this counselor. He had disrespected my Christian faith. Therefore, he is a fool, incompetent, and a jerk, drawing a salary he has not earned. He ridiculed my faith and belief in the Christian Bible. He would not be able to help me. If you are dissatisfied with my performance of duty, I'll just slip away in the night, and you will never have to deal with me again." The captain said, "Sergeant Tolliver, John, everyone is more than satisfied with your performance. It's just disappointing that we can't convince you to go to West Point." John said, "Sir, I could never be a cadet, I'm married." The captain replied, "Well, there's OCS." John stood, well, not sorry. But this has to be my decision. May I go, sir?" The captain nodded, "Yes." Dismissed. At home, John and Cary Lee talked about his conversations with the captain and the colonel. Cary Lee asked why he thought he couldn't go to West Point. John answered, "Because I'm happily married. Cadets must be single." She thought, "Well, you could go to OCS, Officer Candidate School." John replied, "Cary Lee, I'm happy with you, my job, with the Army, and I don't really want anything different." Cary Lee responded, "But what about me? Don't I count? I don't want to worry every day that the next time I see you, you'll be in pieces." John asked, "What do you want? Do you want me to leave the Army and become a minor functionary in some giant corporation?" She replied, "I'd rather that and have you home every night than see you off every morning wondering whether I'll see you that night." John said, "But being that guy, I would be a wimp, a clerk, I would not be the guy you married." He said, "Now I understand when people say, a man gets married hoping his wife won't change, but when a woman gets married, she is hoping that he will change, or that she could change him. So I guess we married the wrong person." They decided to postpone their conversation. John slept on the couch, and Cary Lee slept in their bed. Neither slept well, if at all. They got up the next morning, prepared their own breakfast, sat across from one another, and ate in silence. He looked up. "Are you still angry?" She replied, "Yes. But not at you. What you said last night made a lot of sense. If you left the Army and stopped being the best EOD man in the Army, you would not be the man I fell in love with. I guess I'm angry at the situation." She started crying. "Damn you, John Thomas Tolliver, I love you so much. Is there any kind of compromise possible?" John replied, "I got to thinking about that last night when I couldn't sleep. I could apply for warrant officer. But I would still be a doer." She asked, "Could you ask some warrant officer about that?" John thought, "I think the battalion has a warrant officer. I could ask to talk to him." Next, John and Cary Lee spoke to CWO, Chief Warrant Officer, Jorgensen about the duties he might have as a warrant officer. CWO Jorgensen told them that although he was supposed to be a technician, he was, in fact, stuck behind a desk, a minor functionary, a paper pusher, rather than being a doer. Then the chief told them that John would be a doer for one more rank. "John, You might get your hands dirty as an SFC, Sergeant First Class, but after that, you'll most likely be stuck behind a desk. That's the way the world is, John. It's the same everywhere. You get promoted further and further away from the actual job. John shrugged and looked at Cary Lee. What now? Chief, is there any way I could become a warrant officer while dictating the terms of my service? The chief replied, John, you would have a better chance than anyone else. You have the Medal of Honor, and you've impressed more generals than anyone else. You could only try. John and Cary Lee left the chief and asked to speak to the captain. In the captain's office, John outlined his dilemma. Sir, please understand, I thought of becoming a warrant officer, but talking to Chief Jorgensen, I would not be a doer unless I could somehow dictate the terms of my service. I cannot be a desk jockey. No offense intended, sir. The captain nodded, none taken. I think I will talk to the colonel and maybe the CG, commanding general. Maybe there is a compromise somehow. The captain called John in to speak with him. Sergeant Tolliver, the decision has been taken out of our hands. You are being transferred to Fort Lee. There you will undergo more training. You will become an instructor. Sergeant Tolliver, I hate to lose you. However, these are your orders. Because of your Medal of Honor, you and your wife will be immediately assigned housing on post. Good luck, Sergeant, John said. Thank you, sir. Then he left. John told Cary Lee about the transfer. She was accepting of that. They had 2 weeks to clear out of Fort Bliss and get on the road for Fort Lee. When they arrived at Fort Lee, they got a motel room, and John went to sign in his unit. Upon his arrival in the company orderly room, everyone was galvanized into action. He was immediately taken to the housing office, where he was given the keys to his new home and was told where it was. John was taken to his quarters and shown around. Then he was taken back to the orderly room. John was told that he would meet with the captain the next morning at 0800 in the captain's office. Then John was allowed to get Cary Lee and show her their quarters. They had everything they needed, except food, so they went to the commissary for their groceries. Then they dressed and went to the NCO club for dinner. John told Cary Lee that he believed he would get the same run around about becoming an officer here as much as he was at Fort Bliss. Cary Lee responded, "Don't worry, I'll have your back." John smiled, "Thank you, sweetheart." When John reported to the captain, he was told that he had an appointment with the commandant in 1 hour. The captain told him that the commandant would try to persuade him to become an officer. John told the captain, "Sir, that's not going to happen, and I'll tell the commandant the same thing." The captain asked, "Why?" John replied, "Sir, look at yourself, you're stuck behind a desk. It's only during combat that you would lead troops. I'm a doer, sir. Not a paper pusher, no disrespect intended, sir." The captain replied, "None taken. I'll relay your sentiments to the commandant. Stand by." After a short while, the captain called out to John, "Your appointment with the commandant has been cancelled. Report to personnel."